I remember it as as a watershed for a frightening amount of hatred that was unleashed and legitimized by the state, and also by persistent attempts to beat back any attempt at reconciliation and justice. So any little steps we've made towards justice in those circumstances has been a huge victory.
How do you keep the memory alive? Because it's fading, like we talked about.
I think in one sense, and I know I'm an optimist, but I think I'm not being over-optimistic when I say that it's not ever going to be possible to let Gujarat fade away completely. It's not going to be. You just look at social media today. And where young people are writing, sensitive people are writing, who would have been probably maybe 11, 12, 15 at that time, okay? Maybe little younger than that. But they have somehow, because they were on the right side as far as I'm concerned, known about Gujarat, okay? Whenever something happens, and particularly by this regime in Delhi, the man in power at the center is constantly referred to as the man who headed Gujarat in 2000. So I think in one level that memory is not going to fade completely. But I think what we need to keep interrogating is how it's being allowed to fade. And will it, despite that, like we used to do regular memorializing every year. That's become difficult for us after the targeted attacks on us. And therefore to that extent, it's been successful. You know? And we have to think about when we can regroup and have that memorializing again. So it's a bit of that back and forth that's going on. In 1984, 3rd of November, between 31st of October, Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated, Indira Gandhi. From the 1st to the 3rd of November, 3,000 Sikhs were massacred in Delhi. The Sikhs say the figures are higher. They say the figures are almost 4,000. But be that as it may, it was a huge massacre where large sections of the Congress were involved, if not the whole party. We all know that there was a PUCL report, who are the guilty, etc. What happens in the first election after that? First election, the general election was December of 84. It was in the wake of the massacre because a sitting Prime Minister had been killed. In his wisdom, quote unquote, which obviously was not wisdom, Rajiv Gandhi, the only excuse I can find of him that he was a novice and the others guided him, gave seats to 2 or 3 of the people who were named in the PUCL. And no, it's bad enough that they were given seats, but they won by overwhelming majorities in the city of Delhi that had massacred one section of its population. What does that tell you about you and me? So when people ask me this question about, what about Modi, he keeps winning elections, I think it turns a searchlight on us that we allow such people to win, and those who are against, the voices that are against are either crushed or are in a hopeless minority, not enough to make them lose. Because I think it is this scary majoritarianism that is actually making our democracy hollow. Because of the issue that one refers to, largely deals with communalism, which is, I think, not really being looked at by the media and by public discourse in the way it should be, because of the fact that you have an RSS government, I don't say BJP, an RSS government in power at the center, and represented by one person who is an extreme example of that worldview. So I think it's very important to be able to look at the communalism, look at the build-up of communalism within India. And there have been watershed movements in India. So the 86 to 92 period was a watershed movement. The whole Ram Janmabhoomi movement and the demolition of the Babri Masjid. And the fact that wherever Advani's Rath Yatra went, before the demolition and after the demolition, you had violence against the minorities. Then you had, 10 years later, you had Gujarat, which was another manifestation of that watershed and took it to another level, which was a willful abdication by the state of its constitutional duty. And not to forget the fact that that very man who headed that state is today Prime Minister. So that tells you something about the political class in this country and the state of impunity. That regardless of whether he can be held directly culpable or not, what about the moral culpability? What about
the involvement isn't even in debate.
I don't think it's in debate. From my side, I might be seen to be partisan because I'm party to that discourse. But I'm saying even in terms of the fact that you actually oversaw, for instance, is it good governance what happened in 2002? That's the question. I mean, you keep talking about good governance. But none of this is being talked about. The contemporary phase is actually communalism assuming state power. That earlier you had it in power in states, in the provinces. And
increasing the legitimacy.
And now today it's exactly the legitimacy is increased to the extent that it's in power at the center in a majority.
Right.
The difference between the 99 to 2004 period when you had an NDA-1 government and today is that today it's a majority government.
Right.
So I think the fact that India and Indian democracy has sat easily with this majoritarianism and this communalism is something that we all need to introspect about.
Right.
Because is a democracy only about elections?
Right.
Or is it also about deepening of the constitutional vision, which is a vision of equality, social, economic and political? And is it about deepening of the institutions of democracy to be more democratic, to be more representative? None of these questions are being asked. We are only tom-tomming, even the media, particularly the media, only looks at who is winning and losing an election. But is the media asking this question today that those who are in power, whether it is the so-called communal parties or the so-called secular, are they furthering the constitutional vision or are they furthering disparity and prejudice?
Right.
That question is missing from the discourse and I think the media is a willful party to that discourse being missing. Did the 2014 election, which Modi and the BJP undoubtedly won, was it because of the development through governance plank or was it because of what happened in 2002?
Right.
For me, that's the really searing, burning question which everybody avoids.
Right. People always say, well, they're doing so and
one
so.
of the things missing from the discussion, because you can't talk about the whole book in 45 minutes, is the fact that I've written about the fact that the legitimization of Modi and his change of image began after 2007, his second electoral victory, and it actually began with the January 2009 Vibrant Gujarat Summit. In that summit, you had all the business leaders, Tata, Ambani, Mittals, 2009 hailing him as prime ministerial material. Never in the history of this country has the business and corporate class hailed somebody. Not only did they hail somebody, they proceeded in the next 4 years to do everything to make sure his campaign ran right. And they captured the media, spent a lot of money, and he won. So it was a very well orchestrated campaign. I don't think it was a natural victory in that sense. And that orchestration of that campaign about the normalization of the violence, about trying to say let bygones be bygones, forget it. Memory is not important, and I believe memory is very, very important for a healthy society. So I think your question about elections and should really look at that.
Right.
Should be really addressing this issue.
Right.
That what happens when perpetrators win. People forget, again, I don't know how many years you've served in journalism, but I believe you should be doing a course, if you're getting into a newspaper, you should be doing a course on the different communal riots in this country. There should be a course on communal historiography. Because how will you otherwise know? Go to the Gujarat model itself and you see how it's fallen apart. If you have a Hardik Patel, who's from a Patel community which is not a backward community, which is a fairly well-placed, privileged political community, but 1 lakh Patel youths in August 2015, within a year and a quarter Modi's coming to power, saying that we have no jobs. I think it's the biggest question mark to the Gujarat model, and that's again a question that the media is not asking.
Right.
So I'm saying today what the India that has come to pass in 2014 and before and after is in large measure due to the willful abdication by the mainstream media in India, which has allowed this complete strangulation of democracy. If you're looking at a seriously healthy society where for the future, which is founded on justice, peace, sense of egalitarianism, sense that everybody is equal, a sense of the feeling that the constitution is not only on paper, then you simply can't allow this kind of memory to lapse.
Right.
And I don't know what the Hindu will do on Monday or Tuesday. I don't know what the Express will do on Monday or Tuesday. But it is 15 years after the genocide in Gujarat. And I'm thinking that maybe it will just be very low-key in the media.
Right.
And that itself will tell me that everybody is imposing a sense of self-censorship.
Right.
Because the man who sat in governance in the state that he is today Prime Minister. And it's not a normal government, a democratic government. It represents a force like the RSS which does not believe in dissent. The RSS's document on its website today, I mean, they've removed we or our nation would define, but look at bunch of thoughts. They say this constitution means nothing. We believe in the overthrow of this constitution. So according to me, that's an anti-national statement, if there were any, you know.
You mentioned,
but they are the ones who are caretakers of quote-unquote nationalism, those who don't believe in Baba Saheb Ambedkar's constitution. I think by saying only BJP, we tend to minimalize the danger.
And avoid it.
And I think what we really need to understand is that the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh is a proto-fascist force. It is a force that not traditional, not ancient. It has drawn inspiration from a modern ideology, which is Mussolini and Hitler. You have to read B.S. Munje's diary after he visited Italy and visited Mussolini's camps. The evidence is all there. It's just a question of whether you want to see it. And the question is, my fear is that the educated, upper class, upper caste Indian does not want to see it. Attempt to demonize our work, which is very calculated. It is happening by state agencies and by the RSS, and the media is not playing a dispassionate role. The media is actually just churning out one side of the story. And we have to keep appealing to editors, including the Hindu last week when the CBI, the charge sheet had a horrendous headline. And then they removed it from their website. That, you know, you don't even have the normal standards of professional journalism being employed. Therefore, I feel when it was my publishers who requested me to do it. I never approached them. It's the leftward who said that this book must be done. And they felt that the narrative should flow from the personal to the political and back and forth. The story in its entirety needs to be told. In the story of the entirety, in the sense, it's not just about Gujarat 2002 and Narendra Modi. It's about an entire pernicious flow, pernicious, I mean, cancer is a loose word. I mean, it's a pernicious growth of communalism within the public, private, state and society sphere, which is really eroding and completely hollowing out our democracy. And that's why the narrative goes back to 86, goes back to 92, talks about Bombay 92, 93, where that growth began for me in a very intense way, though I'd covered Bombay Bhiwandi in 84. So that's why it's so important. Last chapter is about the attempts to kind of convert the story into a vilification of a group and a person who's supposed to help the victims into something else. But that's not what the whole book is. The whole book is about something much.
Which is sort of the entirety of the story.
You know, which is about communalism, which is about the rule of law, which is about the use of law to be able to set this right, and the limitations of that vision, that it cannot just be the law. It's raising all those questions which I was brought up with. That can the law and justice be the only means? It cannot be. You have to you have to multiple ways in which to deal with restoring of the constitutional idea.
Is that what gives the book its title?
What gave the book its title is what Mr. Fali Nariman wrote about me in the book, when he said that she's a foot soldier of the constitution. So it's actually all credit to Mr. Fali Nariman. At many levels, one is seeing a complete submergence of the narrative in terms of communalism, in terms of its impact on state and society. And a lot of that has got to do with the regime in power today. That somehow or the other we are not being able to rationally link up how damaging this onset of communalism is at the state level, at society level, and that it has a lineage and a history. What we are seeing today has not happened overnight. I gave examples to say that, you know, the Gau Rakshat, what happened in Dadri, Una and Latihar, it didn't happen now. It began in Gujarat between the 1997 to 2002. Even before 2002, you saw signs of this. And we all ignored it, collectively ignored it. So I think one of the main resonators was to actually bring in a richer narrative, which is not only linear, on how communalism has deepened and got a real stranglehold on Indian democracy. At the personal level, it was also the desire to be that came from the publishers, that to be able to tell this story through a personal narrative, not only in terms of a theoretical work. See, BJP is not winning every state. Let me correct you. In 2014, they won the centre, and it was a dramatic victory. And one can't run away from that. They got the majority. Within 6 months of that, Kejriwal won Delhi. Okay. Within a year and 6 months, Nitish Kumar and Lalu won Bihar. Okay. And we'll know on March 11th what happens in these other 5 states. Okay. It is true that in Maharashtra they have swept the local elections, but it's also true that these local elections never got so much media coverage before. So I think we have to really think. I think we must cover local elections as much as we are doing now, but we shouldn't do it only when BJP is coming to power. That's my point. If you look at the same pattern in Rajasthan, why I'm saying Rajasthan is ruled by Sundara, a powerful chief minister of the BJP. All the local elections are being won by Congress.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get this national media coverage. I think that the media is corporatized, large sections of it. I'm not saying every bit of it. Corporatized means that only a handful of corporate entities own it. I think journalists' jobs are less secure today. So they are more scared about challenging what they are told to do and not to do. Earlier it was easier for us to challenge because we were secure in our jobs. We were not told that we can get out. And I feel media has become very lazy. Very lazy. It's not doing any homework. It's not moving to the field. I'll tell you an example. That the first or second elections after demonetization that happened in some of the Nagar Panchayats of Maharashtra, Zilla Panchayats, Lok Satta had a story. And I'm not talking about Lok Satta had a story that Fadnavis managed to win those elections by allowing his Zilla Parishads to function like banks. So overruling all the center's notifications and RBI, he allowed people to give their old notes at the Zilla Parishad office and give new notes back. I called up the election commission on the basis of the Lok Satta story. I saw no further investigation on that. That kind of executive order is not completely unthinkable in terms of an RBI guideline, but it's happened. So you actually, in a way, are buying the vote. They want to make you even more scared to be able to challenge them. You see, the tactic of any proto-fascist forces to constantly attack. So if they have a Firdaus Ashraf, if they have a Rajdeep Sardesai, if they have a Barka Dutt, who among the spectrum are more fair, with all the limitations that they face, they will badger those people by name to ensure that you get defensive about it. And one thing I'll tell you, that Congress may be corrupt, Congress might be whatever, Kejriwal might be corrupt, Kejriwal might be whatever, but at least you will not be thrashed black and blue, and your children will not be threatened by those regimes. A proto-fascist regime, if you remember when Rahul Kanwal was on India Today TV and they were doing that story on saffron terror, the entire Headlines Today office got attacked by the RSS and the Bajrang Dal. They show their force, they show they're anti-democratic, they show they cannot tolerate dissent, and they get away with it because the law and order agencies don't act. Even what ABVP did the day before yesterday, the police was just watching. So much space has been eroded, so much space has been lost. The citizen of India will have to do it themselves, put pressure on the political parties. Socially, politically, we will have to reclaim this space, or we will become another Pakistan or a Turkey or an America under Trump. Just see the response to Trump. No, let me ask you another question. See the response to Trump in America. With all our criticism about America, there's been an across-the-board sustained opposition on the streets, by the senators, by the media. Why are we not able to do that here?
What is your opinion? Why do you think we are not able to do that?
That's what this book tries to address. That somehow we have to be courageous enough and bring out the collective conscience to do what people in America are doing.
But maybe people think that what Modi is doing is right. Supposed to be
31% certainly do. I don't know how many more do.
The 2014 election vote.
I want to see. I'm going to write a piece on how much the media will actually remember the 27th of February and the 28th of February. And the 3 days that followed. I remember around the 10th year anniversary, there were a lot of articles, full page story in the print media, some packages on television as well. I don't know what's going to happen this time. I really don't know what's going to happen this time. And I think some of it has got to do with the regime in power in Delhi today, because many sets of Indians are functioning under a kind of self-censorship. Like, do we talk about these things or do we not talk about these things? Is it a wise idea to talk about these things?
Okay. Well,
if, for instance, we can have a debate conducted very well in the political class and which the media doesn't question, about why Aurangzeb Road has to go or why Tipu Sultan has to go, is that not revisiting memory of a certain kind? The claim is that you want that to go because you claim that they perpetrated some set of injustice on a section of Indians, right? This is far more recent, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying that if that memory is valid, so is this. This is more valid because it is more recent.
Yeah.
And my point is, you might have 3 or 4 different sets of memories. But in a democratic society, you have to allow play to that for there to be some reconciliation and dialogue. My real questioning after 1993 was that I think we did not allow ourselves to have a real catharsis after partition.
Yeah.
In India, our textbooks put a clamp down.
Yeah.
Society level, nobody discussed it. So it was not a coincidence for me that after the bloodshed of 92-93, you saw a spate of books coming out to do with partition. Because I think people were realizing, literators, historians, cultural people, that this thing is wrong. You can't keep it So what happened as a result of this? As a result of this, you had 3 sets of Indians, depending on where they were geographically located, believing 3 sets of realities. So the Sikh in Punjab, who was most brutally affected by the Muslims, it was a Sikh-Muslim clash largely, on the Punjab, that part of they hate Muslims for that reason. In Bengal, it was the Hindus who paid the price at the hands of Muslims. But in Bihar, in terms of double the numbers, it was Muslims who suffered at the hand of Hindus. So all these 3 communities have memories of that. But there's never been a possibility of all of them coming together and saying, yes, we were all 3 sufferers. And the suffering and the hardship and the violence came out of a communal ideology that can happen in any section, which makes a demon and an enemy out of another. And by doing that, you had a situation by everybody looking at through the prism only of their memory and never having a holistic memory of what partition was. Jinnah had a very short-sighted view of politics, and he was a very self-serving politician. He was a politician who was extremely secular in his behavior and his outlook, but he used a very communal language among the Maulanas to whip up a frenzy which was extremely unhealthy. So I would not think Jinnah has been right about anything. I think the story about the build-up to partition has been that the growth of the RSS and the growth of the Muslim League parallelly resulted, and the Hindu Mahasabha parallelly resulted in the vivisection of this subcontinent. But in Indian public memory, it is only the Muslim and the Muslim League and Jinnah who are responsible for it. And that's where selective memory comes in. And that's dangerous.
So you think Hindu Mahasabha and RSS were equally responsible?
Equally as much as Muslim League, yes. Well, Nehru and Sardar Patel were those leaders who, if they saw communal violence happening when their car, and that time there was no cavalcades and security, they would actually jump out to save the survivors. Today you don't have any leader of any party who will do that. Police reform is one of the things that is the need of the hour today. When we talk about deepening democratic institutions, I'm talking about deepening of the police force, the judicial force, the administration, and the educational apparatus. Okay. Now, between 1981 and 89, we've had 9 police commissions. Each one has come out with a report, and each one has recognized the need for autonomy in the police force, the need for complaint mechanisms, and the need for representative policing. So enough Muslims, enough Dalits, enough women, enough Adivasis, so that there's a representative police force. But somehow India has not been able to stomach this, and mainstream India has kind of rejected these recommendations and not implemented them.
You think that is the best way to fight communalism?
One of the ways. If I lived in a constant state of fear and arrest, I'd stop doing the work I do. So I don't think there's a threat anytime. But I do believe that we have in very powerful positions today, chote dil or chote dimag ke log, who seem to have made it a single point agenda to simply try and target a few individuals and organizations. And that is very, very unfortunate. CJP has filed 68 cases of 2002. I have 9 cases against me. So I now have to spend 20-25% of my time battling those cases. But my struggle is to make sure that the rest of the 80% I carry on with the work I'm doing, and that I manage. One of the most vicious recent propaganda was, which two television channels sold, was in the communal harmony and secular education program that we are doing, to actually say that that was hate speech and hate writing. Now, it's basically a battle between Godse and Gandhi, or a battle between Godse and Ambedkar. I mean, you just read what, say, Jyotiba Phule or Ambedkar said about the Hindu caste system. If they were measured by the same brush that we are being measured, tomorrow Modi and Amit Shah will say that they are also indulging in hate speech against the Hindu community. They were the staunchest. Read riddles in Hinduism, read Annihilation of Caste, and read Philosophy of Hinduism. Will they dare to say that? Will they dare to say that the most stringent critiques of the caste system and of the Hindu organized caste system was by Ambedkar and Fuller? And my work in Coach follows that tradition. And I believe that we have a right to critique anything which is supremacist and which is not healthy, as much as RSS has its right to propagate the viciousness it does through the textbook it produces, including Dinanath Batra's textbooks. You know? So it's a battle of visions. I have protection. I have protection by the Supreme Court. See, I said protection, so I don't roam without protection.
Yeah.
But my mobility is high. I go to every village and district where I'm invited. And I believe that we've done the right thing. We've done the constitutional thing. And I believe that there is a large section of Indians. I don't know about the numbers. I don't know who is the larger number. But I believe there's a large section of Indians who believe that we've done the right thing. Because there's a large section of Indians who believes that this country needs to stand on justice and peace and not on hatred and division. Now, which is a larger number? Who is more powerful? Time will tell. I just feel like today whenever there is a regional popular option, BJP, RSS have been defeated. Maharashtra is a story of the Congress abdicating itself. NCP, Pawar did not even go to Pune for the elections, to campaign. So it didn't happen like that. It happened because there were certain reasons behind it. However, Mamata Banerjee romped home in Bengal. She is not RSS or BJP. I told you about Kejriwal. I'm telling you about Nitish Kumar and Lalu. And let's wait for March 11 and see what happens in UP. I'm very optimistic.
I'm also optimistic. I just hope it.
No, but I'm saying so. Therefore, let's not perpetuate their myth with that they are winning everywhere. They are not. Don't
So
perpetuate their myth.
we'll
Get into that trap. They are winning some places. Maharashtra was horrifying. I'm not in denial mode. But Maharashtra is not everywhere.
Pawar didn't go. You
No,
said.
why did Pawar not go to Pune, his city? I find it very shocking. Why did in Bombay Municipal Corporation, why did these two Congress camps decide that they are worse enemies than defeating the enemy itself? What can be a greater sense of political irresponsibility? The Congress and NCP in Bombay, the two camps, I don't want to name them, you know them better than me. Are they interested in real secularism or are they interested in self-service of their own parties? It's because there was no real opposition that the BJP and Shiv Sena have romped home. Please make no mistakes about it. In all the states where there's a viable regional opposition, they are being beaten back.